Today we are drowning in a sea of alleged icons with British Vogue, reaching new heights with Dazed, and shaking our bonbons with GQ Mexico. My name is Marco, welcome to the Model Gene, and if you are ready to dissect this month's covers, put on your boxing gloves, hit that like button, and let's get started on March's Battle of the Covers. Starting off with Vogue US, we have a fantastically boring cover of Miuccia Prada, arguably the most influential woman in fashion. Besides it looking like an iPhone picture, I struggle finding anything interesting about the photo to latch onto. This is unremarkable and underwhelming. Sorry, but I'm not a fan at all of Vogue France's cover of Yuen. The Fendi look is orthogonal and seems to draw inspiration from Yves Saint Laurent's Mondrian dress, which is inspired by the modernist artist Piet Mondrian. Rather than this hypnotic fabric background, I would have loved to see a reimagination of Gerrit Reitveld's red and blue chair, or something else fitting in the De Stijl vocabulary. Taylor Russell's Vogue Italia cover has me wondering, who is that white lady? Overexposing the image aside, I think it's a shame when the focus is so entirely centered on a garment rather than the subject. The wig is distracting, there isn't a clear sense of art direction with the shoot. Overall, rather disappointing from Vogue Italia and Paolo Roversi. For Edward Enninful's final cover as the editor-in-chief of British Vogue, he assembled 40 Vogue icons for a group shot. Yes, they were actually all in the same room for this photo, which makes it even more impressive that this looks like a poorly hobbled together Photoshop collage. It is amazing to feature absolute icons, such as that one lady from that Netflix prison show that ended in 2019, or the one girl whose mom did a bunch of drugs with Edward in the 90s, clearly on the same level as Naomi, Christy, Iman, Jane Fonda, Oprah. If you compare this with the October 1994 cover of Vogue Italia by Meisel, this British Vogue cover looks even sadder. I would rather a final cover speak for itself based on the quality of the image rather than need a press statement telling us how epic this is, which is something Edward resorted to a little too often in the last years, like when he teased the groundbreaking cover of Timothée Chalamet. When I compare this mess to his first cover as editor-in-chief, it is hard to believe this came from the same magazine. Goodbye, Edward. Please don't do this again when you end up at American Vogue in a few years. Vogue Portugal's Blossom issue for March has some really lovely covers. This is my least favorite of the bunch. I don't understand this winged eyeliner in relation to the rest of the image, and there isn't a strong sense of visual hierarchy, but I love the other covers. Ashley Graham's cover is one of her best. She looks lovely. It feels like spring without all being pink. I don't get a strong sense of the Blossom issue with Bibi's cover, but I like her gesture and her arms are posed really well. The last cover of Simona Kust is my favorite of the four. The garment really fits the theme in a modern way. She looks like she is emerging from this plant-like form, and the softness overall feels very intimate. Sora Choi's Vogue Japan cover is leaning into maximalism, but I need a different pose from her. With her arms back, she looks like an amputee. The makeup is beautiful, but I think this icy green doesn't suit with how warm-toned the background is. I would have played with the colors in the set to better balance the look. I prefer more blue rather than the yellow tones. I love Claudia Schiffer, but she looks a bit deranged in this cover of Vogue Germany. They were too aggressive with the retouching, not just her face and neck, but her arm looks a little crazy, and I'm afraid the cat agrees with me. Vogue España's cover of Kate Moss's daughter is a pretty picture. Elizaveta Porodina is supremely talented, but it's just a waste using this not model. People booking the daughter is supposed to be a way to pay tribute to Kate, but if Kate looked like her, she never would have been famous. Inez and Vinoodh photographed Vogue Mexico's covers, and I prefer the black and white images that feel very Fellini rather than the 80s covers. My favorite is this cover of Raquel Zimmerman. I definitely have a soft spot for her, and this strong lighting really highlights the beautiful structure to her face. I find it interesting that they selected the black and white image because seeing this image, they clearly wanted to invoke Jerry Hall. The color images lack the softness of the photography from the 1980s, which would have helped. I don't think the middle parted bob on Christie was the right direction either. If you want 80s glam done correctly, look no further than this cover from the March issue of Harper's Bazaar Italia. It's the perfect amount of color and still manages to feel cool rather than dated. Maya's body has the right amount of asymmetry to keep the eye moving. Great work here by the team. My favorite of the four covers from Harper's Bazaar Italia is this one of Penelope Tern. When a color photograph looks just as good in black and white, you know you are working with a really strong composition and contrast, as is the case here. The black and white covers are also lovely, and I feel like they pushed harder on personality to offset the lack of color that makes a cover pop on a newsstand. Harper's Bazaar Italia is definitely stronger than Vogue Italia this month. With Dazed magazine, some of these covers are fantastic. My least favorite is the most conservative cover of K-Trap. It's not bad. The yellow and black with the blue sky look nice, it's just not memorable. Victoria Monet's cover is fine. I would have preferred a bit more lavender color in the highlights to fit in more naturally with the beautiful sky. Vittoria Ceretti's cover will make you queasy if you are scared of heights, but be rest assured this is all Photoshop wizardry, which honestly is a bit of a letdown. I'm not advocating for models to be dangling off of buildings, but I just don't get why this concept came to be. Fakery aside, she looks beautiful and there is definitely tension in this photo. These two shots from the editorial look so cheap, but I actually love these wide shots and think they would have made for stronger covers. Next is this cover by Hugo Comte, which is really not bad at all, but I find the eye makeup unnecessary, and I'm not seeing the narrative through line with the styling and the makeup. Precious Lee looks wonderful in Hugo's second cover in a spider's web of sheer fabric. She is projecting power and seduction. Great job here. I love this cover of basketball player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for several reasons. Although he is the cover star, his co-stars are just as visually interesting, and you can get a real sense of their personalities. The layering of the clothes works perfectly, and I think the moving basketball was a smart way of alluding to his profession, but not making it the focus of his cover. Now to the dazed cover of Mona. Wow, wow, wow. Such a clean visual gesture, making it my favorite cover of the month. There is just enough jewelry, the pose is fantastic. I will definitely be remembering this cover a few months from now. Mona is also on the covers of M Magazine by Merton Marcus. This one feels very Terry Richardson, and I'm not crazy about that, but this cover in the black leather vest is way cooler. You can actually see the flyaways of her hair, which I love because not everything needs to be perfect in order to get a great image. And in fact, not removing these types of things makes me feel more connected to the subject. Top to bottom, I wouldn't change a thing about this cover. This cover of Die Repubblica is so gorgeous. I love this type of timeless classic portraiture by Theo Sion. Fashion is all about trends, which can make a photo look dated very quickly, but this image could have been taken in the 1960s. The Paolo Roversi cover is also good, but I just don't feel as pulled into the image as I do with the photo of Ida Heiner. Colin Dodgson's cover is my least favorite, but not everything is meant for me. Penelope Cruz's V Magazine cover is so deeply Caroline Cerf de Duzel coded, I'm really surprised they didn't have her style the shoot. That being said, a closer look at the styling really pulls me out of the fantasy. The sideways hat is dumb, the pewter tones of the long necklace don't look nice with the pearls, and I don't like the different tones of black of the shorts compared to the boots. It is very what I ordered online versus what arrived. I prefer the portrait, less chaotic, and I'll take this big flower over a trucker hat any day. Vogue Greece's cover is too dark, but otherwise a nice cover. Having that skirt opened is one of those smart tricks to liven up an image, and I think this angular bob fits very well with this look and the new Gucci. The brand is definitely paying a hefty sum to dominate the covers this month, but I understand their need to push this new direction. Numero France, I am shocked at how bad these two covers are, so incredibly dated and sad. That is in stark contrast to the covers by Sylvester Mako of Eva Hercegova, powerful, interesting, even if I do hate these silly sneakers. I can't understand how a magazine can have such a split personality to their identity. It's really bad branding, and I wonder what's going on internally to lead to such a result. GQ Mexico's cover of Ricky Martin bothers me for a common stylistic issue, executing a concept only halfway. Wet shirt, wet hair, dry pants, dry face, dry chest. That is why I loved Esquire's September cover of Aaron Taylor Johnson. Norman Jean Roy really leaned into the concept, resulting in a stronger and more authentic image. The other cover for GQ Mexico suffers from the same issue. Stop putting dry people in wet circumstances. I will, however, applaud them for the composition, specifically the inflatable flamingo's eye peeking through the letter Q. GQ Portugal's covers of Jose Condesa are full of movement and character, very well done. This one in particular I like, and it reminds me of this Avedon photograph of Sid Charisse. GQ France's cover had potential, but seriously, why did they have to go so hard on smoothing the skin on their faces? We start to lose dimension and structure when there is so much retouching, which is particularly jarring on a man's face. The styling is lazy and sloppy, but I'm happy that Thatcher is getting more covers because his type of beauty would have done better 10 years ago. V-Man's covers by Jack Bridgland are nice, very V-Man, the colors look great in both of them, but I particularly like the cover of Omar Apollo. I know nothing about his music, but as a cover, there's something mysterious, verging on dangerous about his eyes, and the image looks very masculine. I would have preferred a slight devious smile on his face, but this works fine as well. And that is where today's review is going to end, but for more about the fashion industry, check out the links below, let me know in the comments what you thought about the covers this month, and be sure to subscribe to find out who comes out on top next month in the battle of the covers.